Hey everyone, this is Coach Clemente Bonilla, CVCS Baseball Podcast. This is the first official CVCS Baseball Podcast ever. Really excited about this. Thank you to Joseph Jasper and to Luke Leisengang and the rest of the crew that is making this possible today. And leading off with our very first CVCS Baseball Podcast, our guest, none other than 2021 grad, recently drafted in the third round by the Detroit Tigers, Josh Randall. Super excited to have you here, Josh.
Thanks for having me, Chach. I appreciate it. This is pretty sweet.
Yeah, right. We're gonna, just dive into some things and see how this first baseball podcast goes. And I've been thinking about this for a couple of years, so it's just really exciting that we got it off the ground. And just super honored and privileged to have you on the show for the first one to lead off, and hopefully there'll be many more. And having you back after years of continuing to play. Why don't we, I know I mentioned you're a 2021 grad of CVCS High School, but why don't we just jump right into the most recent events? You were drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the third round of this year's 2024 Major League Amateur Draft. Take me back to that. Like, how did that happen leading up to that moment? How was the reaction of your family? Where were you when you found out that you were going to go 85th pick?
Yeah, so I was at home this summer with my family. I got the call early in the morning from my agent that the Tigers wanted to pick me with the 85th overall pick, so that was pretty cool. And then just kind of waited till we saw the pick on TV, and then to see yourself get drafted and them talking about you on TV and the highlight reel and all that stuff is pretty sweet. It's what you dream about as a kid.
That's so cool. Take me through your family's reactions. What was the first thing one of your family members said to you?
Just super happy. I told my mom and dad first, and they were just so happy for me. I think everything that they've poured into me and given me and allowed me to continue to play baseball and chase my dreams, it's just so rewarding for that to finally become a reality, and it was just a really, really special moment with everyone.
That's so cool. You have a sister who's a current senior at CVCS this year, Katie Randall, and I know she's always been a huge supporter of you ever since the old days of CBO in the 8th grade when she was, probably like 10 years old coming out to the games. What was her reaction to the big news?
She was super happy for me too. I think it's the bond that you have with your siblings is really special, and growing up, she would always come to my games and my tournaments, and she would always support me. And so for her to be there and experience that with me was something really, really special. And it's nice that I can be home now for the off season when she's doing volleyball and things like that, so I can support her just like she supported me all those years.
Yeah, that's so cool. You and I have that in common. I have a younger sister. She's a couple years younger than me. And as we both probably experienced a lot of the summer events and vacations that families would take, probably circled around what baseball events you had, and the little sisters just get dragged through all of that. And but you know what? It pays off. I think my sister wouldn't change it for anything, and I'm sure Katie feels the same way, seeing her big brother getting drafted by the Detroit Tigers. So now you have gotten the call. You've seen it on TV. The hugs, the tears, the excitement, the laughter, all that has kind of settled in, and now it's what? I mean, are you flying to Detroit? Are you flying to Florida? What's happening a day or two later?
Yeah, so they get you on a plane a couple days later, and it's pretty quick. So draft was on Monday. I was out in Florida by Thursday, and then you go through some testing and some medical work, and then you're pretty much just right in the organization practicing, playing games, things like that, getting your arm back in shape. And then about 3 weeks of being in Florida, they sent the new draft guys to Low A, so then we got some games under our belt, made a couple starts, it went well. But yeah, it's pretty quick. There's not much of get to see your friends before you leave. It's pretty much you get drafted, they call you, we're putting you on a flight tomorrow, and then life begins. So it's pretty crazy roller coaster.
That's so cool. So take us in a day in a life once you reported to A-Ball. What is a typical midweek day for you?
Yeah, so what's nice with our games is they're at 6:30 in the evening. So you can kind of wake up whenever you want to. There's housing provided by the team. There's meals provided by the team. So all that stuff's taken care of. So I can roll out of bed whenever I want to, go to the cafeteria, get my breakfast, get my lunch, go to the field. And then when you're at the field, you actually have a lot of time. So I'll do my pregame throwing if I'm not pitching that day, and then I'll play some cards with the guys or some bumper pool or poker, things like that, or just watch whatever football games on the TV, and then just kind of talk with the guys, shoot it a little bit, and then get ready for the game and go play 9 innings. And then when you get done around 9 o'clock, go get dinner. We did a Transformers movie marathon with some of my buddies and I. So
Nice.
just kind of, or fishing or whatever you want to do to fill your time, but there's a lot of fun things to do out there.
Awesome. So let's kind of work our way backwards, and we'll kind of end with you back here at CVCS. But you go from Detroit Tigers, A-ball. Now we're going to move back to NCAA action. This last season of your NCAA baseball amateur career, you were at University of San Diego, and you actually got to be in a regional and pitch in a regional. It was very fun. I got to watch you on TV. I think it was on ESPN2, throwing a start in one of the first regional games. Tell me about that. Let's just talk about the whole college season, starting with the fall and how that led you to a great spring season and starting in a regional and leading up to the opportunity to sign pro ball.
Yeah, so in the summer, I transferred to the University of San Diego from the University of Arizona, and that for me was a really good transition and a blessing in my life that God brought for me. And I think what helped set up my season so well is the fact that in the fall I had a pitching coach that really came alongside me and helped me and kind of let me do my thing, but also gave me some tips when I needed it to, and kind of let me be my own best coach in a way, and give me the freedom and autonomy that I wanted to succeed. And then kind of parlaying that into the season that I had, I think was fun, because it's easy to play well when you have a lot of good guys around you and you have teammates that actually care and supportive of you, and you're supportive of them, and when everyone's chasing success together for the team and not themselves. And it's really easy to play a lot freer, and especially when you're playing with all your buddies, it's easy to have more fun. It's easy to come to the ballpark every day with a smile on your face and just ready to play baseball with the same love that you had playing t-ball or when you were 10 years or 12 years old. And I think that's what really made the difference for me this year, was the perspective that I had based off how the rest of my baseball career's gone, and just not taking things for granted and appreciating the gifts that God's given me. And I think that, starting at University of Texas week 1 and then ending against Oregon in the regional, I think that over the course of those 3-4 months, I really grew a lot as a player and a person.
That's so cool. And it's interesting how that dynamic really seems to never change, whether, you're in a Little League uniform, whether you're in a high school uniform battling for a CIF championship, or you're in college trying to move on from an NCAA regional to the Supers or to the Omaha World Series, and then you get into professional baseball. And I had an opportunity in A-ball back in 2002 in the California League. We won the California League with the Stockton Ports, which was an amazing experience for a minor league championship. And then you get the rings presented to you at the Cincinnati Reds big league spring training game. Was such a neat feel. And then you listen to it on TV, you see the World Series, and it's kind of the same concept at every level when it comes to championships, when it comes to winning, that there's something about team chemistry, something about playing for the team, putting the team first. And it sounds like you really found that and enjoyed that at University of San Diego. Tell me a little bit about the regional experience. How neat is that? Not a lot of people you're going to run into in this world that have played in an NCAA Division I regional.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so I went to 2 regionals when I was at Arizona. One was in Miami and the other one was in Arkansas. So those are obviously pretty far away from California, so my parents weren't able to go to either one of those. But this year we ended up going to Santa Barbara, which was special because with us playing in San Diego, all of our families got to go, so that made it even more special for everyone involved. But, I mean, just if you've ever been in a high-pressure playoff scenario or big work meeting, if you don't play sports, like I can imagine it's kind of the same feeling of it's just every every pitch matters. You can kind of feel it, the momentum swing with every pitch, with every at-bat, every run scored. I mean, you're seeing it in the playoffs right now with, I mean, all these games are pretty close, and each series is tied 1-1 apiece. And so it's pretty cool to get to experience that, because in the regular season, there's always tomorrow, but in the postseason, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so it really causes you to have a heightened focus on each pitch. Not that you don't have that in the regular season, but it's a little bit extra in the postseason, and everyone's going to give you your best shot. And I actually got to pitch against Oregon when I was a freshman, so have some history against them there. I kind of knew how they like to approach at-bats and the games and things like that, and I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage. And honestly, I have some buddies on the team that I played summer ball with, and that's always fun too. And really just things that you dream about as a kid. And I kind of going back to the perspective thing, my freshman year, I pitched in the regional against Ole Miss, but I kind of came in as the freshman for mop-up duty. My sophomore year, I was healthy, but I didn't get put on the regional roster even though I traveled. And then my junior year, I got to start game one of a regional and kind of set our team up a little bit. And I think that the perspective that I gained my first 2 years at Arizona set me up to have a better chance of success this past year. And I think that's kind of what I take away from my time in college is perspective is everything, and kind of the way that you frame things in your mind really help dictate how the outcomes in life are going to go. And so, you know, I think it would have been easy my freshman, sophomore year to feel sorry for myself, but, you know, I took them as opportunities to learn and grow. I mean, my freshman year, like, it's great to pitch in a regional, and then, you know, my sophomore year, I was putting myself mentally on the field so that way come my junior year, I was ready and prepared to pitch against Oregon. And so, you know, it's just about making the most of your opportunities and ultimately being prepared for when they come.
Yeah, that's well put. I try to tell the kids during practices and games to put their mind frames into that scenario to visualize. In fact, a lot of what I learned from the jumping of levels from high school to college to professional baseball, you know, the physical stuff, that's going to be there. These are tremendous athletes at every level. So the inner dialogue, what you tell yourself, how you frame your mind to approach things is really going to be the separator when you're competing against the best of the best. And it sounds like you're a little bit ahead of the game already for such a young age. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, you're still 21 years old, right?
Yes, correct. I'm still 21 years old.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about the transferring from University of Arizona to USD and how that really benefited you. I remember when you were a senior in high school and we had that wonderful signing day event for you, and you were headed to University of Arizona. I know in today's college climate, there's the portal and there's just opportunities to transfer and maybe make your situation a little bit better. That's a little bit more normal, and NCAA has provided that opportunity a little easier than maybe 20 years ago when I was in college. But tell me, how did that decision come about? It obviously worked out great for you, but what was kind of the leading factors to decide that you wanted to transfer, and then how did you come to the decision to pick USD?
Yeah, so I think my reasoning for transferring is a lot different than at least I hear from most people. I think that, you know, the stereotypical, you hear someone's transferring, you kind of just assume that because of playing time or because they don't like their coach or whatever. Like, usually it has to do with baseball, and I think that for me it was more about life. And I think when you're in high school and you're 16, 17, 18 and you're deciding on a college, I think most kids are thinking only about the sport that they play and not about what life looks like off the field. And so I think the things that you just value in high school are completely different than the things that you value once you're 2-3 years into college. And so I took a hard look at kind of where I was at on the baseball field and where I was at off the field, and I just found that for what I wanted as a 20-year-old going into my 21st birthday and then my junior year of college, I just wanted some more balance in my life. And so Tucson's great, like the baseball's great, but I just didn't feel like as a person I was necessarily my best self. And I feel like when you're your best self, then whatever job you're in, I feel like you're just going to naturally perform better. And so for me, I had some buddies at San Diego that reached out to me, and told me how fun it was and how good of an experience they had and how close they were to winning if they could just get a few more big pieces. And so that was really attractive to me. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, when you have friends on a team, it makes it a little bit easier to play more free and have more fun. And also, too, I mean, San Diego's probably the nicest city in America. So that's pretty nice in and of itself. And I mean, you have the beach, you have Padres games, you can go to the city. There's, I'm close to home. Not that was important to me, but obviously it's great that my parents can come visit me and watch me play a little bit more often, especially being my last year of college. I know that's really meaningful for them and me too. And I mean, just when I really evaluated where I wanted to go play and I looked at what San Diego had to offer, it was pretty hard to pass up.
That's great self-awareness, and I hope we'll have some of our current baseball players listening to this podcast in the future and can really gain some perspective from that. You moving closer also made it a little more possible for me to come out, and I really enjoyed with another fellow CVC alumni, graduate of 2017, Andre Antone, and I jumped in the car and went up to UC Irvine when you were there and started a game on a Friday night against UCI, a game in which you ended up losing, unfortunately. But when you came out of the game, it was a 0-0 ball game through 6 innings. You looked fabulous that day, and it was just so fun. That was the first time I got to see you throw on a mound as a collegiate player. I hadn't seen you play since high school. And so it was just neat to see how much you had grown, not just physically, but just with the feel for the zone, the feel for your pitches. I could tell that you made some tweaks with your mechanics, your arm slot, a little bit different. It looks like you were throwing some heavy sinkers. Just really exciting to see the development of you physically and mentally as a baseball player. I'm just even more excited, though, just to be around you as a young man and just see how you've grown as a person. I got to meet you back when you were in 8th grade. Let's start heading back to that point. So we talked a little bit about professional. We talked a little bit about college. Now let's get into the CVCS years. But before that, you were originally from Northern California, and I had a chance to meet your family. I believe I toured your guys' family for our school, and me working in the admissions, some of my first years in the admissions office. How did that decision come about for your family that you were going to move from Northern California to Southern California? And then how did you find us and ultimately ended up a CVCS Eagle?
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern California. We moved down here when I was in 8th grade. My dad got a job in Irvine. And I remember my mom and dad came down here to look at the area, see where we were going to live, kind of tour some schools for Katie and I. And ultimately got recommended CVCS by a family friend. And at the time, I definitely wasn't as serious as into baseball as I was when I moved to Southern California. So it was kind of like, yeah, hey, mom and dad, like, cool with whatever you want to pick. I don't really care. Just whatever you think's best for me and my sister. And looking back, it was a blessing that they picked CVCS because I don't think my baseball career would definitely be where it's at today if it wasn't for you and this school and coming here. And so really, I didn't have any say or part in the decision to come here. And I'm really glad that my parents chose this school because I think it really set up my sister and I for a really, really good education and experience, especially being in SoCal. So, yeah, picked CVCS, started in 8th grade, and then spent my entire high school career here.
Yeah, so the 8th grade, that would have been was Principal Mr. Ryan Klostra. And in your 8th grade year, sounds like you had a lot of fun in the first year here as an 8th grader. Now we're getting ready to start high school. You're going to be a freshman in high school here for CVCS. We have freshman, baseball camps, and we are starting to just do the whole process. Now you have school, you have baseball. Just tell me a little bit about how that freshman year went for you, and academically, your spiritual experience, and then of course athletically, how that went as a freshman at CVCS.
Yeah, so I got to play on varsity as a freshman, which was pretty cool. Not many freshmen get to do that, so that was a really cool experience for me and something that I took a lot out of. And I think stepping aside from baseball, that the school experience was really good. I think that CVCS does a great job of that big school feel with like that small school community. And I think that they do a really good job of tying your faith into academics and that being at the forefront of what they're trying to instill in us as kids. And so for me, it was nice to be at a school that had a strong community, because not every school has that, especially around here, at least talking to some of my friends that go other places. And so what we have here is really special and really unique. And then also to have, such a great school experience with such a great baseball experience, I think that's really rare, because usually you get one or the other. And so to have both was really, really special. And, to be coached by you and Josue and the rest of the staff here, and Seth when he was here in the winter times, and Brian when he was here in my freshman year was super, super cool. And so I think the opportunities that you have here to learn and grow as a person and athlete are really special. And I think it's pretty hard to find many places else. And especially too with my experience as a freshman on varsity and the kind of schedule we got to play and who got to play with, a lot of, college commits. And that kind of showed me what it takes to get to where I'm at today. And you kind of see what the roadmap looks like. I think that really helped me a lot in high school.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. Not a lot of freshmen are already 6'3", 210 pounds as well, that could throw low to mid 80s with some pretty good feel. And at those days too, you were one heck of a catcher as well. And I remember your freshman year, that would have been seniors like Alec Arnone, who was a catcher and also a pitcher. We had Nick Snacks Casaretti. You had juniors like the Flying Hawaiian, Jace Bakui. You had Charlie Miller and Robert Wood. Just a really fun group. We had Carson Matthews, who is also a former alumni who has signed a pro contract after a year at San Diego State. I looked it up. It took some deep diving. The school's been in existence for 51 years now. You're the third alumni from CVCS to ever sign a professional contract. We had a player in the 80s, Darren Sutton, who is a son of Hall of Famer Don Sutton. He signed out of Montgomery, Alabama, NAIA College. He signed as a free agent, and that was in the mid-'80s. And then Carson Matthews signed a few years ago with the Angels out of San Diego State as a free agent. And then you are the third person to sign a pro contract with the Tigers. However, you're the first CVC alumni to ever be drafted. And what a neat thing to set the bar high, going in the 85th pick overall. It's going to be pretty difficult, and maybe some years to come before we have someone be able to top that. But we're going to hope. You never know, right? But back to those the seniors in that group, and I remember you were catching for us. You had a nice season in the middle of the lineup as a hitter. You did throw a few high leverage innings as a relief pitcher that year. But then something happened that was also very difficult. And I definitely don't want to go too deep into this and make it a morbid or sad podcast show in our first episode. But I think it's still important to bring up, we had one of our players, Logan Hall, pass away. That is something that does not happen every day, every season. Even, coaches will go decades of a career and never have that happen. Players will go a lot of years if they play long enough, and sometimes that will never happen. But unfortunately, we as a team experienced the loss of one of our brothers, one of our teammates, a senior who passed away in his sleep after one of his greatest pitching performances of his career. Did that have an impact on you that season and also just moving forward into your career? We talked a lot about perspective. Tell me a little bit about how that Logan Hall moment affected you.
Yeah, so I think what's really cool about that whole story is the fact that his best pitching performance, that's what it ended on. And I think that his life and who he was as a person and a teammate really rubbed off on everyone on our team. And that was really evident just from, me being a freshman, being pretty new to this school. He took me under his wing, and he treated everyone the same way with respect and love, and always happy, always smiling. Can't really remember ever seeing a frown on his face. So to lose someone like that is obviously devastating and really sad, but the legacy that he left and his life and what he gave to our team and was just really, really special. And I think that it was also really cool to see how when we would play other teams, the respect that they had for him and you and his family, and just how generous and kind they were to us. And I think that was also really cool too. And I think that what that taught me is that, life's fragile, and it's important not to take things for granted, because you never know when God's going to call you back home, and, life can end in the blink of an eye. And so it's important to enjoy the moments in time that you have with your family and friends. And, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so with Logan, he left such a great legacy on everyone, and he definitely left a lasting impact on that team that year.
Yeah, amen to that. And so, you talked a little earlier about perspective, and then talking about Logan, and not every day is guaranteed, and how important, to not just play to the best of your ability, but to live to the best of your ability. How has faith impacted the way that you approach your life, and specifically the way that you approach playing baseball? And has that changed, developed from high school to college to professional? Just give us a little bit of insight on how faith has impacted you.
Yeah, my faith means so much to me. It's one of the biggest parts of my life. And I think for me, especially in high school and then early on in college, I dealt with some injuries, and it'd be really easy to kind of get down on yourself and, I guess, get mad at God or question like why things are going the way they are. But I feel like life is just one big learning opportunity. And so instead of being upset, I chose to lean into God more and pray more and get in the Word more, and just kind of see the plans that He has for my life and how I can honor Him the best I can through the circumstances that I'm given when I'm given them. And I can't control a lot of those circumstances in life. And so it's more about how you respond to them and what you do with them than the actual circumstances itself. And so I think that for me, instead of focusing on the negatives, I wanted to focus on the positives. And one of those big positives was leaning into my faith more and really making that a cornerstone of my life, and just praying and asking God, like, help me get through this day, and then help me get through the next day, and then show me how to honor you through these circumstances that I've been given, because I just think that speaks a lot about someone, is how they handle things instead of the things that they're actually dealing with. And so for me, that faith has always been instilled with me from my parents, and then the schools that I've gone to, and then now, like, that set me up really well in life to handle all the adversities that have come my way, because my baseball career has not been a straight line. It has not been a smooth path whatsoever, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But what's always been constant in my life is my faith in God, and He's been so good to me, and He's blessed me with a lot. And so if there's any way that I can give back to other people or help people and have them see God through me, then that's what I want in life. And everything that I've been given and the opportunities that I have currently and ahead of me are all because of the gifts that I've been given from God and from the people around me. And He's put a lot of really, really special people in my life, and people that have mentored me and guided me in the right direction. And I'm just really, really thankful for that.
Yeah, that's so great. What a well said, well put thought. I thought of you last night or later in the afternoon yesterday, when your major league organization, right now the Big League Club, is battling in the playoffs for the major leagues in the division series, and Carpenter, left-handed hitter off the bench, came in to face a right-hander, and he blasted a 3-run home run late in the game to ultimately give them the lead and tie the series up. And they were interviewing him at the end, and he quickly went straight to, by the grace of God, that he was able to be put in that opportunity and come through. And I thought of you because I felt like, what a neat thing for him to be able to put that out there on display on national TV, that all of our gifts, all of these opportunities are from the grace of God, and that you would be such a wonderful example of that. Dealing with all the adversity and keeping your faith throughout the timeline that I've known you. We talked about freshman year. Let's go. Like your first 2 years of high school were extremely exciting. You're a two-way player. You're big. You're strong. You're off to a really good start. You're starting to get some recognition for your talents and abilities. We get into the junior year. Some scouts have even started to call, and you've verbally committed to Arizona. Things are really going well for you. You've come to that point where I think you still want to swing the bat, but you have realized that pitching could take you to some pretty amazing places. So you've really started to just hone in on that opportunity. And I remember we're probably about 7 or 8 games into the season, and we're really excited to go to La Mirada, if you remember, because La Mirada had a big stud that was supposed to be in the first round. In fact, he did go in the first round that year. And you as a junior, that was going to be kind of like you're coming out to the world. There was going to be scouts everywhere, and they were going to see you throw against him. And then we get the news that COVID has hit. It's in full flex, and everything is going to be shut down. So just as this great season was going to kind of outlay for you and you were going to be able to show your stuff on the mound, season just shuts down. Where are you at in your mindset there?
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy time. I remember the day that we found out that school was going to get canceled, we were like, oh, we'll just be back in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks turned into about 5 months. So that was definitely a crazy time that obviously has never happened in any of our lifetimes. And so how I approach that time off is the same way that I approach kind of everything else in my life. And it's, when you're met with something challenging, you can either, again, feel sorry for yourself and run from it, or you can, make yourself better from it. And so I kind of asked myself, like, hey, when I look back 3 months from now, am I going to be like, man, I am so glad that I took advantage of those 3 months? Or am I going to look back and think, man, like, I could have done so much more with those 3 months, and I just completely wasted all that time? And so, I think most people would pick the first option. And so I really studied a lot on how to transform my body, how to work out properly, got with a good hitting coach, kind of used the time away from school to really just hone my baseball skills. And, I can say this now that I'm out of high school, but I would, would be on Spanish Zoom class, and I'd be at the gym on turning my camera off, just working out while my Spanish class is going on in the background with Mrs. Velasquez. So just kind of fun things like that. And also too, I think the time off was nice to build some of my friendships. And with us being on online school, you kind of had a little bit more free time. And so we'd, me and Ferguson and Canty and Keppel, we'd hop fences at Little League fields and do live ABs and throw bullpens and things like that, and just kind of get our baseball work in however we could. And I think that, ultimately looking back, like, that was a really, really, obviously, it was a tragic time in most people's lives, but for me it was a lot of fun. And it was fun to just kind of hone my baseball craft and build some friendships, and then ultimately set myself up for a really good summer going into my senior year.
Absolutely, and the ability to adapt and to stay focused. Some people probably took a step back, but it sounds like you were able to thrive. And then you set yourself up to going into senior year, where I think I've never seen you look stronger. The velocity, just the physicality that you presented on the field. I remember going in right when we got back from Christmas break. I had never been called so often. The volume of calls that I was receiving from major league organizations, and again, we've had a few other players here that have been pretty, top-notch players that there were some calls coming in, but never the volume and the amount and the upper echelon. Like, it was not just area guys; they were like regional guys and cross-checkers and national cross-checkers. I was like, wow, what do we have here? And everybody wants to see you start. Everybody wants to know your schedule. So to me, it's like, hey, this kid, he's got a chance. Like, this guy, he's going to go in the first couple rounds out of high school. So we were very excited about that, and I was appreciative that you had me in the loop with some of the decisions and representation that you decided to go with, and we were just all very excited for you. And then, boom, we find out that you tweak your back pretty bad. Again, another huge adversity moment. What happened with your back, and tell me how you had to go through that with your mindset there.
Yeah, so I had small fractures in one of my vertebrae in my back, and so that caused me to miss all of my senior year, which obviously, looking back with all the potential that there was for that year, like it's a bummer, and when you kind of think like what could have been, like it's kind of fun to think about, but also to like, I've always said like you can't go change the past. Like the past is the past, and so it's fun to think about. But I think that what I'm most proud of for myself is the kind of teammate that I was through that. I think that instead of being focused on myself, I wanted to focus on my teammates, and it was really cool to see some of the seasons that they had. I think that there was a lot of guys that maybe didn't have well-defined roles in the fall that honestly ended up carrying us to where we got to in CIF playoffs and things like that. I mean, you think the younger guys that came in off the bench, I think Tyler Roberts had like an 1,100 OPS on varsity that year. Like that was sweet. Owen had 2 home runs in our CIF game, and that propelled us to the quarterfinal, and that was really cool. And I think too, like on the pitching side of things, there's some guys that maybe you didn't expect to have good years, but then when they showed up in CIF, like they showed up in big ways. And so it's everyone pulling for each other and pulling in the right direction. I think you're seeing it right now in the playoffs. If you look at the Padres, if you look at the Tigers, if you look at all these teams that are having success, the Mets, the Phillies, when guys are having success, even the guys that maybe aren't having good games, they're still running out of the dugout. They're still giving high fives. They're still, patting each other on the back. They're still, fist bumping and things like that. And I think that speaks a lot to why those teams are there. And, young kids out there can really learn from that, because it doesn't matter if you're having a bad game or a bad season. Your teammates out there still need your support. And if you can focus on their success rather than dwelling on maybe your failures, then that's how the team wins. And that's how you accomplish goals as a team. And when you're accomplishing goals as a team, then you're probably going to also accomplish your own personal goals. And so it's all about how we can work together towards a common goal. And my senior year of high school was making it to CIF and having a deep playoff run, and got cut a little bit short. But ultimately that was one of my favorite years here at CVCS, and I didn't even play an inning on the field. So, I mean, really just we had a great group, and the team focus and the camaraderie was really, really special. And I think that, young kids out there can really learn from that, and they're kind of seeing it right now in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that. And I was so proud of you for the just the amazing attitude and leadership. You were our team captain that year. You were voted team captain. You were also, the projected big draft and our ace pitcher, and was going to pitch all the big games that we scheduled. And so you were a devastating loss to the team as far as not being able to play. But like you said, you could have, I guess, taken a step back and mentally just tanked, but you stayed with the goal for the team. And ultimately, that was the emergence of Ryan Keppel. What an amazing year he had. We had younger guys like Hunter Long and Adrian Blanchette. I mean, these are all guys that ultimately a few years later all signed big Division I college scholarships. And they might not have had as many innings or opportunities had you not been injured. So, and the fact that you were able to take them under your wing and give them leadership and encouragement and still have a huge impact on that team, I'll forever remember and be thankful and just and impressed with the maturity that you showed. It was really, really impressive. So we're kind of getting down to the last couple minutes here, and I wanted to first, I guess, look at it this way. What would you tell the high school kids now, like a freshman, sophomore now, or your young self, your high school self, how to get and to achieve some of these goals and dreams? Now, obviously, you're not done. We're still hoping you're going to make it to the big leagues and have a long career. But you've definitely have put yourself in a great position towards that goal. How would a high school kid, what advice would you give them to try to put themselves in the position you've put yourself? Yeah,
so I think my biggest thing that I'd say is just enjoy the ride and have fun. I think that that's something that this past year, being at San Diego and then into my professional career, like that's something that I've really focused more on, and it's something I've worked a lot with my mental performance coach. And really, when you think about it, right, when you were a little kid, and I'm sure most people growing up played Little League or some sport or whatever they were passionate about as a kid, but when you're a little kid and you're playing sports or you're outside with your friends, like I guarantee you're not thinking about how many strikeouts you had or the fact that you made an error at 10 years old or the fact that you didn't hit your solo in the school musical. Like, I guarantee you're thinking about going to the snack bar after the game. You're thinking about how much fun it is to be with your friends, how much fun it is to play soccer in the street outside, regardless of if you get your knees scraped up or not. And so taking that mindset as a 10-year-old, when you think like that, like time flies. But when you think on the negative stuff, like time just comes to a screeching halt and life becomes so tough and so hard. And I think that most kids, if you just focus on, just enjoying it, like results are going to be what they are. You can't change them once they've happened, and, good or bad. But just focus on the positive things, like how can I help my teammates today? How can I have my prep work be as good as possible? Like, how can I make my routine as dialed in as possible rather than focusing on, man, I went like 0 for 3 today with 3 Ks. Like, well, tomorrow's a new day and you have a new opportunity. And so if you focus on the positive things, then tomorrow will probably be a good day. But if you just dwell on all the mistakes you made today, then tomorrow's probably going to be the same exact result. And so for me, it's enjoying the ride and having fun. And when I put myself in that 10-year-old mindset, life becomes exponentially easier and a lot more fun. And I think that also, too, now, like, it's kind of crazy to think, like, baseball's my life, and baseball's such a game of failure that if you always focus on that failure, then, like, this game will just eat you up and spit you out. And so, for me, just focus on the good things, and then when bad things maybe come up, just take them in stride and use them as learning lessons rather than roadblocks.
Mm-hmm. You definitely would know more than most with the crazy path that you've taken to get to the successful spot that you're in now. I mean, it sounds like your advice is pretty simple. Just hone into your 10-year-old self and focus on the process and have fun. And that's pretty great. The bases are loaded in a pressure situation, but you won't even feel it, whether you need to throw strikes or whether you need to barrel up a ball. If you're just being your 10-year-old self and having fun and being there for the team, I don't think you're ever going to feel that pressure. It's just going to be fun. Yeah. And the outcome ultimately is in God's hands anyways. So why should we even fret about the outcome? All right, Josh, I want to do the lightning round. This is the first episode, and hopefully this will catch on, and we'll do lightning rounds with everybody that we bring on. Here in the First Baseball Podcast, we're focusing on alumni. We have Josh Randall here, 2021 CVCS graduate, current Detroit Tigers right-handed pitcher. And we're going to do a lightning round with him. Folks, remember this because someday he's going to be pitching in the big leagues, and we're going to remember that we know Josh Randall first. Okay, I want you to think pretty quickly. Okay. It doesn't have to be immediate, but again, it's a lightning round. So, Josh Randall.
Yes.
Favorite food to cook?
To cook? Shrimp.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard, rumor has it you're quite the cook these days. So
yeah, I dabble every now and then.
He dabbles. Okay. Favorite genre of movies?
Action.
Action. Nice. Okay. Favorite CVCS teacher?
Coach Bean.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. That was quick, coming from the heart here. Okay. Favorite CVCS baseball memory?
My freshman year, it was a 1-0 game. Carson Matthews is pitching. There's a ground ball up the middle. I'm catching. Ground ball up the middle. The guy is rounding third, and one hopper to the plate, and I barely tag the back of the guy's jersey, and the umpire calls him out. It could have gone either way, but the umpire calls him out. And that's what moved us on to the next round, and I will never forget that.
What an epic win. 1-0 win over Rancho Cucamonga in the first round. The Flying Hawaiian, Jace Pacui, throws a one-hopper, and Josh Randall puts an epic tag. A pick, a tag. Wow, yeah, I'll never forget that either. That was a good one.
And what's crazy about that is the entire year, Chach would get on me for not tagging the runners at home plate, and I got chewed out 1 or 2 times, and then I finally tag the guy out at home plate.
Yeah, which is part of the process of making you mentally tough. We needed to mentally toughen you up. So occasionally that's some tough love. Okay, did you go to prom in your senior year?
Yes.
Who did you take?
Myself.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Sweet. Makes it easy. Okay, lightning round. Question 5. Your favorite Starbucks item?
Iced caramel latte, thanks to my girlfriend. She got me a coffee.
Okay, that sounds like a good one. Okay, and then last but not least, this isn't even a lightning round. This is just we're gonna sign off here with Josh Randall. Just the impact that CVCS has had on you, and whether it's the coaching, the teaching, the academics, the spiritual. Just give us a last thoughts on how Capo Valley Christian School has made you just a little bit better of a person, as a 21-year-old young man.
I think that the coaching staff here has been really helpful with you, Chach, and the rest of the guys, just kind of instilling us what it means to be mature and be respectful and be a professional, and kind of what that looks like from your background in pro ball and things like that. And then also from a school standpoint, giving us a well-rounded education with a really strong emphasis on faith, I think is really important too. And so when you combine those two things, I think it sets you up really well for life, whether that's, you're an athlete and you want to play college baseball or football or whatever it is, or, if you want to go to college and have the normal college experience too. Like, either way, you're going to be set up really well for whatever's next in your life. And so I think that CVCS has offered me more than I could have imagined when I first got here in 8th grade. And so, I think looking back, I'm really, really appreciative of my time here, and honored to be back and help you guys out this fall in any way that I can, and give back to the kids, because that's what's life all about is, God gives you things, and, how can you give those things back to other people so that they can have the same opportunities or even greater opportunities than you even had. So that's what I'm passionate about, and I'm just really, really thankful for you having me on and being back here.
Oh, Josh, that's so awesome. And yeah, it was nice that I had a little snippet of professional baseball and some experience, but I've always dreamed of the moment when I could say I've coached somebody who's in the big leagues. And I hope, someday that dream's going to come true, where I'm going to be, in the stands or at home watching a major league game and just seeing Josh Randall come in and just dealing with that heavy sinker, 95, 96, and spinning some balls and just doing it all by the grace of God. And just what a great young man you are, and we wish you the best, and we're all going to be rooting for you. The Detroit Tigers are now one of my favorite teams, and you're one of my favorite baseball players. All right, so, okay, well, hey, first podcast over, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening, and stay tuned for more.